Do you ever feel like the avoidant in your life is just slipping further and further away? No matter what you do, no matter how much you try or how little you actually invest, it just seems like you can't seem to get momentum in the relationship. Well, there's one strategy that tends to stop an avoidant from pulling away long term, but we have to see if this would even work for you. So, in today's video, I'm going to take you through, first and foremost, a whole bunch of pointers that tend to be really valuable for an avoidant to open up and to want to stick around and feel safe enough to invest in the relationship long term. But at the very end, I'm going to tell you the actual one real thing that is very healthy, that is the only long-term trick that will actually work. And if you miss this really important step at the end, you may find that you just keep this painful cycle going of not knowing how to connect, how to really build momentum in the relationship, and whether or not this relationship is even right for you. So, first and foremost, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do in small ways that tend to make an avoidant feel safe enough to lower their guard, to connect more. But these are really important things for you to take into consideration. So, number one, avoidants pull away when they feel overwhelmed emotionally. And what this actually means is that if you pressure an avoidant to move too fast, if you put them on the spot too much, like tell me how you're feeling right now, or I need to know a commitment right now. If you use very ultimatum oriented language, or you're not considerate of the fact that they need to move at a slower pace than other attachment styles, then you'll see that they tend to shut down, pull away, and it just becomes a really challenging dynamic. So we can solve for this by using open-ended language, saying things like, hey, I don't need to have an answer right now, but I need to know eventually that we're moving in the same direction and we want the same thing, so I can be mindful of my own time and conscientious about who I'm investing in. Saying things like that allows for you to express your needs without overwhelming the person, saying, I need to know right now. And it feels like you're being put on the spot. And that's where they tend to kind of downward spiral a little bit when it comes to communication. Number two, something that's really important as well is that the more you find yourself in a situation where there's volatility, a lot of fighting, arguing, criticism, all of those things, they tend to cause an avoidant to pull away very strongly. Dismissive avoidants are very stoic, so they won't often show it, but they're very sensitive to criticism. They don't like volatility in relationships. They don't associate volatility as passion or excitement like some other attachment styles do at times if they came from that kind of upbringing. Instead, that just causes them to feel like I'm not emotionally safe here. I need to shut down. And they tend to reconsider the whole relationship dynamic. So the more there's a sense of harmony, safety, healthy communication, regulation when communicating your needs, the better all of that tends to work. A couple other things are low pressure gestures go a long way. And what this actually means is doing little sweet things. This tends to be an acts of service, love language that dismissive avoidants respond very well to. Things like bringing the dismissive avoidant coffee in the morning or dropping them off something nice, just little tiny gestures, even cooking them a nice dinner, like things like that tend to be things where they feel like, oh, you're thinking of me. And that's something that lands well with them rather than really intense words of affirmation. Things like, you're the best person I've ever met, or I'm so excited for a future with you. I want this to last forever. Like that kind of commentary will feel pressuring. And they often don't feel that love language as much. They do respond well to appreciation, to acknowledgement of things that they're doing, or of their efforts. Things like, hey, I noticed you really showed up to have that hard conversation with me the other day. Thank you. They respond so well to things like that. But they have to be acknowledgments that are sincere and kind and thoughtful. And they respond very, very well to empathy and non-judgment. Non-judgment equals acceptance. Acceptance is the opposite of all of their fears, because oftentimes they have this deep inner sense of like, I'm shameful at my core, because emotional neglect makes children feel like that. And they carry that into adulthood. And this is so much of this individual's background of experiences. So those are all these tips and tools, right? Be accepting, or at least have an attitude of acceptance when you're communicating a need, and an attitude of harmony, kindness, be emotionally stable. All of these things, these are all little tips and tools, and hopefully that's helpful. But I'm going to tell you the one thing that actually matters, and also how to tell if this is going to work for your relationship or not. But before I tell you, I do want to let you know that if you want to do a deeper dive into healing a relationship with any attachment style, so if you're a fearful avoidant working on your relationship with a dismissive avoidant, or an anxious working on your relationship with a fearful avoidant or a dismissive avoidant, any of those, we actually have free courses that you can check out fully for free just for a limited time. We do this for Valentine's Day month. You have a 14-day free trial to all of the personal development school, but you can go into our attachment pairing courses that are all about attachment pairs together and how they tend to best work in relationships, how they tend to best show up and thrive, and all the little tips and tools that go such a long way to really get the relationship back on track. And again, you can check that out fully for free just for the month of February because it's Valentine's Day month. So I'll put a link to that down below. Now, what's the one burning thing? The one thing you've been waiting for to hear? Well, here's the answer. The only real thing that is going to make sure that a dismissive avoidant isn't going to pull away and make sure that you're doing this from a healthy perspective is if you learn to actually communicate to each other. What does that mean? I know that sounds like a small thing. It means you have to learn to have a conversation where you can talk about needs in a relationship. Dismissive avoidants won't buy into things and invest in relationships and make an effort if it doesn't make logical sense, because they tend to a lot of the time perceive a lot of their worldview through their logic. That's part of how they were conditioned. It's part of what makes them feel safe in the world. So if you have emotional challenges in the relationship that feel unsolved, that they get swept under the rug, these things cause dismissive avoidance to flaw find, and eventually they'll pull away. But if you can start working through conflict in the relationship, including from their end, like they'll have to show up and communicate with you, this is what allows them to see, wow, these things are solvable problems. We can work through things together. And they actually start to feel a sense of emotional connection in a way that they feel safe, logically connecting and investing in you long-term because they see that you can move through challenges. So let me give you an example, okay? So you can really see this. Let's say that you want more consistency from a dismissive avoidant in a relationship when it comes to communication. But let's say you know that they need more time. Even though those needs seem different, it doesn't mean that they actually are different. They can both exist or coexist in a relationship at the same time. So if you go to your avoidant attachment style partner and you have a conversation, you say, hey, look, I've noticed that I'm somebody who really needs more conversation in the relationship and constant communication, or at least consistent communication. And I noticed for you, you really value your independence. And I realized that these things can coexist. For me, it would mean so much if we could just have like a 15-minute touch base in the evening once a day. You know, something where we have a phone call or a FaceTime chat, and maybe we do that like 5 nights of the week, and 2 nights of the week we actually see each other and we're present with each other. And if we can do that where there's a consistent routine, it's only 15 minutes a day, and then we see each other the normal 2 times a week that we have been, you know, for me, that would help me in turn honor that you need your Sundays alone, that you just need to do your thing all day Sunday. We don't have to be texting throughout the day every day. I just need to know we have this like really present check-in where we can connect for that 15 minutes. And then we have some consistency around how much time we spend together. And in doing that, I can turn around and honor your need to be able to unplug from your phone throughout the day, not to be back and forth texting from in the morning, the afternoon, and to just have this quick touch base in the evening. How do you feel about that? Or is there anything you would want to change? What this is doing is it's conveying that you can communicate just really upfront about your needs in a healthy way. And you're leaving room for them to negotiate with you, to communicate with you. And you're making them feel seen and understood, which goes a long way with a dismissive avoidant. But also you're making sure that you're communicating in a way that is not coming at the expense of yourself. Because your job in a relationship isn't just to do all these things that we talked about in the tips section of this video and do all these 10 things or 8 things that I mentioned, where it's like all these things you can do to make sure they don't pull away. No, because then you're not taking yourself into consideration. It's helpful to know those things, but you have to make sure you're communicating your needs. It'll be the only way to see, A, is the dismissive avoidant actually getting on board and doing that with you? And does the relationship evolve accordingly? B, to make sure the dismissive avoidant actually feels considered safe and connected to you. And C, ensures that the relationship is both of you growing together instead of you growing apart. And the best part about this is you may be very surprised at just how well the avoidant is willing to show up with the healthy communication and somebody actually initiating these types of conversations because they read it as logical. It makes sense. You're talking things out, you're putting everything on the table, and they tend to respond very well. Of course, I can't guarantee that for everybody. And if they don't, it may be time to reconsider your relationship if there's things missing. And then when you try to address or communicate them, the person's not willing to do the work with you. But give it a shot and you might be pleasantly surprised. Remember, you have that full 14-day free trial if you want to go into so much more depth about any attachment style pairing course, the anxious with the fearful avoidant, the dismissive with the anxious. etc. We have them for each insecure attachment style pair. Hopefully that's really helpful for you as a resource. I'm excited to see how it goes for you. That link is below. Thank you for stopping by and for watching. If you got value from this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in tomorrow's video about the dismissive, avoidant, and anxious attachment in relationship. Thank you for watching.